Lana Turner dreamed of one husband and 7 children, but fate had something far darker in store. From scandalous affairs and betrayals to self-termination attempts and violent tragedy, she lived through some of Hollywood's most haunting scandals. This is the raw, untold story of Lana Turner's controversial sex life. When Lana Turner first met Artie Shaw, her first husband, he was a long shot from the fairy tale Prince Charming that she imagined growing up. Not only was he older, established, and, as some may say, handsome, but he was also pompous. And somewhere in her guts, Lana knew he wasn't a good man. Yet the first night they spent together in his car while he told her all about his life was enough for Lana to change her mind completely and even marry him. That's right, she eloped with a man she had barely met that same night. It's unclear what she was expecting to play out, but she should have listened to her gut the first time she met him. Artie was anything but a good husband. He was quick to temper and would verbally and emotionally abuse the young actress. After just 4 months of marriage, Lana divorced him and said, "He was a very intelligent man, but he didn't treat women well." Perhaps she was indeed right, because Artie did go on to have 4 more women leave him for his character. After Artie, Lana began to desperately search for what love really meant to her. Lana thought the reason she was 19 and divorced was because she had not accepted Greg Bouncer's terms. Greg Bouncer was her first love. He was an attorney when they met, and shortly after dating, he asked her to marry him. That wasn't the problem. It was the condition he attached to it. Greg said she had to leave her acting career once they got married. Lana blatantly refused. She came from abject poverty, and that had defined her entire background. Even though she never wanted to be an actress, it paid the bills and gave her mother and her a good life. It didn't take long before she discovered that Greg wasn't even committed to her. It hurt Lana deeply, and she was quoted as saying, "I learned how to be hurt from Greg." But when she met Tony Martins, she considered giving up her career for him. Maybe if he had stayed back then, her life would have taken a different trajectory. But off he went to the Navy. Lana was heartbroken, and instead of healing, she spiraled into a series of relationships. From the arms of Tommy Dorsey, the musician, into the laps of 2 drummer boys, one of whom even brought his parents across 1,000 miles to meet her, Lana kept searching for what love meant to her. She started to see Bob Stack at a point, and then boom, she was seen with the millionaire escort Howard Hughes. She was once quoted as saying, "I think men are exciting, and the gal who denies that men are exciting is either a lady with no corpuscles or a statue." That was it, people thought. But when Lana co-starred with Clark Gable, rumors began to fly. One day on the set of Hunky Tonk, Clark's wife Carol came in to surprise her husband. Lana was playing a scene with Clark at that moment, but when she turned towards the director, she saw Carol staring at her. She became so flustered and ran away to her trailer. That reaction fueled the gossip mills that even when Carol died on her ill-fated flight, they claimed she took the flight home despite knowing the risks because she found out that her husband was betting Lana. But Lana denied it. In her own words, "I revered Gable. Luckily, we developed a close working relationship, though not a close friendship." It was in the early 1940s, the period you could call Lana's wild era, that she met Stephen Crane. The duo was introduced by a mutual friend and continued to see each other at parties. But Lana Stevio, MGM, was fed up with the way she partied, and so they clamped down. That prompted Stephen to visit her in her home where she lived with her mother. Lana's mother liked him immediately, and from there, things began to escalate. They got married, elopement style, in Las Vegas in 1942, and only a few months later, Lana found out she was pregnant. Stephen was overjoyed, and as they awaited their child, something unforgiving from the past crept in. Their marriage was a sham. It turned out that Stephen, who had been married before, did not properly follow through with divorce proceedings. He simply abandoned the marriage and got married again to Lana. Tabloids went crazy. The cute little family had been built in a web of lies. Lana was ashamed. Most people don't know this, but Lana was a Catholic, not by birth, but by her own choice. With her baby on the way, she had to make sure the child was born in wedlock. So how did Lana do it? Well, she made sure Stephen properly divorced his ex-wife, and then she got married again to Stephen. However, even the birth of their daughter, Cheryl, could not fix their broken marriage. The secret he kept from her broke her trust in him. Still, Lana wanted to make it work,
But what she didn't know was that there were more secrets where that came from. It was when Lana went to his hometown that she discovered something rather shocking. Stephen was no tobacco heir. He was just a phony. When Lana divorced him in 1944, she cited his unemployment as one of the reasons. But before their divorce was finalized, Lana fell back into her ways. For the next 2 years, she dated several men, some at the same time. During the divorce proceedings, she dated John Hodiak, even though she claimed she simply used him to end her marriage. She also dated Tyrone Power, but his mother forced an end to their relationship. There was also Peter Lawford, and finally, Robert Hutton. In 1946, Lana met the love of her life, Tyrone Power. They had met a few years ago, and they were acquaintances. Even though Lana liked him, she respected his marriage and stayed away. But when he invited her over for dinner during a separation, she didn't hesitate to attend or tried to reject his kiss. To Lana, she was in a fairy tale. She loved him so deeply that once she flew to Mexico to see him on his set just because she missed him. He was the most gentlemanly, enchanting man I had ever known, Lana once gushed. Their romance was intense, so when Lana got pregnant, she was over the moon. However, Tyrone did not share the same joy. He was barely out of the hair of his ex-wife and wasn't ready for another committed relationship, especially since he knew that Lana wouldn't want to have an illegitimate child. Lana was heartbroken. He was the child of the greatest love of her life. But she loves Tyrone beyond her desire, so while he was away on a trip, she got an abortion done and informed him via mail. She later said that was the hardest thing she ever did. But then her heart broke one more time when Tyrone returned and confessed that he had fallen in love with someone else. There was nothing Lana could do as she watched the closest semblance of love that she had evaporate. She later said, "No man, except possibly Tyrone Power, took the time to find out that I was a human being, not just a pretty, shapely little thing. That could have been my fault. I didn't know myself." When Lana Turner married Henry J. Bob Topping Jr. in 1948, it looked from the outside like a fairy tale. Bob was a millionaire socialite and heir to a vast steel fortune, and he quickly swept her into a world of yachts and country clubs. Even though it was her third marriage, it was the first time she had a proper wedding. Bob threw her an exclusive wedding and showered her with love. Finally, it seemed she was on a new chapter with a wealthy and attentive husband and the promise of a stable family life. At first, there was every reason to believe in that promise. Lana became pregnant in early 1949, and the couple excitedly anticipated their child. But the joy ended in tragedy when she delivered a stillborn baby boy in New York City. They tried again, only for Lana to endure another devastating loss around 1951, widely reported as a second stillbirth or miscarriage. These back-to-back tragedies left her emotionally raw, yet she clung to the hope that their marriage could survive the grief. Instead, the losses deepened the cracks. Bob began drinking heavily, disappearing for nights at a time, and his name became linked with other women. Behind closed doors, there were reports of violent arguments, and Lana found herself increasingly alone in the marriage. By late 1951, she and Bob had separated, but the emotional strain pushed Lana to the brink. Devastated by his infidelity and the compounded grief of losing 2 children, Lana attempted suicide by swallowing sleeping pills. She survived, but the incident marked the lowest point in her personal life. Eventually, a love story with such a blissful beginning ended in 1952. But Lana's fourth marriage probably held the worst memories of Lana's life. Lex Barker met Lana at a gathering shortly after his divorce. They instantly fell for each other, and a few months later, they were on a trip across Europe. By the time they returned, the duo had gotten married. Everything was perfect, except for one thing. She wanted more kids. Fate seemed to smile on her because she soon found out she was pregnant. But their joy was short-lived when she had another miscarriage. Lana's mental health took a hit, and she began to engross herself in work. For 2 years, she spent more time out of her home, sometimes traveling with her husband. Unbeknownst to her, those trips she took with Lex were the only time in those 2 years that her daughter felt safe. Lana didn't know, but Lex had been sexually assaulting her daughter right in their home. When 13-year-old Cheryl couldn't take it anymore, she mustered courage and told her grandmother, who had to break the news to Lana. Utterly livid, Lana pointed a gun at Lex and promised to kill him if she ever saw him again. When he died many years later, she said it wasn't soon enough. But the nightmares weren't over. When Johnny Stompanado love-bombed Lana with flower bouquets and love letters, it didn't take long before she fell in love. Or perhaps she fell into hot oil. Johnny would beat her up so that she could only use makeup to cover up. Only those who have never met such a man would ask why she never left. But one day, after he had beaten her so badly, Lana told Cheryl that she'd kill him.
The next day, they got into another argument, and Cheryl was scared that if Lana tried to fight back, Johnny would kill her. So the little 14-year-old grabbed a knife, and in a brief struggle, Johnny ran into that knife. That was it. Or at least that was what mother and daughter told us. That launched them into a trial battle, and after some back and forth, the court dismissed Johnny's death as justifiable homicide.
It was many years later, after Lana's death, that her best friend, Eric Root, who stayed with her during her later years, revealed the truth. According to Eric, Lana had walked in on Johnny having sex with Cheryl. Feeling responsible for bringing those predators into her home, Lana herself drove the knife into him and ended his life. But if she were arrested, it would have been on charges of plain old murder, so Cheryl took the blame and tucked away the secret till her mother passed away. Lana Turner's fifth marriage was to Fred May, a rancher from the prominent May department stores family. They wed in 1960 and remained together until 1962, a union of just under 2 years.
Unlike many of her other husbands, Fred was someone Lana described as a giver, not a taker, and neither she nor her daughter Cheryl could pinpoint any betrayal on his part. Though their marriage ended, they stayed friends, suggesting a peaceful and unusually respectful split for Lana. Her sixth marriage was to Robert Eaton, a Hollywood producer more than a decade her junior. They married in 1965 and divorced in 1969, lasting just shy of 4 years. Eaton reportedly lived off Lana's income while she was working, indulging in an extravagant lifestyle funded by her earnings and even cheating on her, sometimes while she was away filming. Lana was devastated to discover his infidelity upon returning home from an overseas absence, which prompted her to file for divorce.
Her seventh and final marriage was to Ronald Pellar, a nightclub hypnotist and self-styled Dr. Dante. They married in 1969, separated within 6 months, and officially divorced in 1972. Pellar portrayed himself as an accomplished psychologist and world traveler, but Lana later discovered he had lied about his credentials. More painfully, he stole approximately $35,000 she had given him for an investment and allegedly $100,000 worth of her jewelry. In her memoir, she called the experience a betrayal of trust, describing how she was defrauded by a man she had believed was her last love. Those last 2 marriages were terrible, and in Lana's words, husbands 6 and 7 are best left unmentioned. Although Lana dated her manager, Taylor Perrow, for a few years after her last marriage, she spent the last few decades of her life putting herself first, and maybe that was the true love she needed.
If you enjoyed this video, there's a good chance you'll enjoy the one showing on your screen right now. Click, enjoy, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. See you at the next one.